Yo, what is going on, guys? Today I'm bringing you a Nightblade build. It's going to be a crit build. For our race, we will be a Khajiit. Dark Elf could also work for this build. Either one is good. For our stats here, we're going to be putting all our points into maximum mag to get the most amount of damage. Our maximum Magicka will be 27k, 31,000 max health, 17,500 max stamina, with our recoveries being 1,300 Magicka and 1,300 stamina. Our weapon and spell damage will be 3,600, with our critical being 37%, penetration being 6,300. Our physical and spell resist will be 17k unbuff, and our crit resistance will be 1,300 unbuff. For our Mondas here, we are running the Shadow for maximum damage, and of course you always want to be a Vampire. Vampire Chase 3 is a must for every PvP build, and Smoke Bear Haunch will be the food of choice. If you can't afford this rich food, then I recommend Jewels of Mistral. It's the cheaper version of this food, and it basically does the exact same thing. Our stats fully buffed up will be 2,200 mag recovery, 2,200 stamina recovery, 4,800 spell and weapon damage, and 26,000 physical and spell resistance. We are running Rallying Cry, so our crit resistance will also go up, and our weapon and spell damage will go up. We also have 70% critical damage and 40% critical healing. Onto our sets here. Our first set will be Archer's Mind. This set was built for a Nightblade. It gives you max stam, crit, and increases your critical damage and healing by 8%. And then furthermore, when you are in stealth, you increase your critical damage and healing by an additional 16%. So our 70% here goes up to actually 86% when we are in stealth, so it gives us a nice chunky boost of damage. Traits here, we're running 1 Sharpen, 1 Nerdhone, 1 Disease for the minor defile, and the Poison for the damage over time. You can run what other enchantment you want here instead, totally up to you, or you can run Poisons here as well. Both of them are all good choices. Nerdhone for the most damage, by the way. And I like Sharpen here for the extra damage, but you could also run Charge here. For our backbar here, running a Rallying Cry Ice Staff for the increased defense when you're blocking. It converts blocking into Magicka and gives us some decent block mitigation. And the reason why I chose to run Rallying Cry here is because we have enough sustain, so I don't think we need to run Wretched. And Rallying Cry allows us to put Divines onto our armor, since we get the 1,600 critical resistance for 20 seconds and an additional 300 weapon and spell damage whenever we critically heal ourselves on our back bar. This is up for 20 seconds and only has a 15-second cooldown. This will basically be up 100% of the time. And I recommend running Power to Defending here. But I also recommend running Escapist Poisons here instead of the weapon damage enchant. But you can run the weapon and damage enchant if you want, but I recommend Escapist Poisons here instead. For our jewelry, we're running All Infuse to spell damage for the extra mag recovery, and one reduced cost Magicka Glyph. This is just to help us with our overall sustain, and I really do like it. And we're running Death Dealer's Fate. The reason why I'm not running Sea Serpent Coil is because I don't like the snare on a Nightblade, and I also just like the overall max stacks that Death Dealer Fate gives you. But Sea Serpent Coil can definitely be run again since they changed Concealed Weapon. So Sea Serpent Coil will definitely give you a lot of extra damage, but I just prefer Death Dealer's Fate, but either one is good for this build. For our armor here, I'm recommending running 3 medium on our hands, legs, and feet here, and then 1 light on our waist. These can all be Divines to give us the most damage on our Mundus Stone, so we get the most overall critical damage and healing. That's why we run 4 Divines here, and then heavy on the chest, reinforced for most armor. Heavy reinforce on our helmet and shoulders for most armor once again. This gives us some more overall survivability, which I really like. All prismatic glyphs as well. If you want, you could definitely switch out the hands here for light if you want. So you run 2 light, 2 medium, and 3 heavy. That's another build that could work. But I just prefer 3 medium, 1 light, and 3 heavy. But you can change this up however you want. I do recommend though always running the chest reinforced and always having a light waist. These are just the best to run because of the way armor works. This gives you the most overall armor. Is running 1 reinforced chest piece here and running a light sash, so you have the most overall armor. And we're running 1 piece trainee just for the max health. And then Warped Visage here. I really like this because it gives you a lot of sustain. You could run Balrogs here, but I just prefer Warped because of the sustain it gives. Balrogs can give you some nice extra damage, but I don't think you really need it. I think the extra survivability, in my opinion, is just more important. But you can choose whatever you want to run here instead. Onto our abilities here. Massive Slayer, great CC, can't be blocked, and you give your enemy major cowardice for 12 seconds, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 430. This is massive since this basically means you have more survivability since they do less damage to you. And then power extraction here, great major brutality buff. Once again, gives you minor courage, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20%. And then additional 215 for 30 seconds. So you only have to use this once every 30 seconds. That's massive on your stam sustain. And also inflicts the enemy with minor cowardice for 10 seconds, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 215. This is nice once again because this gives you extra survivability since you're reducing their overall damage to you. Shadowy Disguise, this is a very strong ability because this not only gives us invisibility, which is very good, but it also grants us Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing our weapon and spell damage critical rating by 2700. So we don't have to slot Camouflage Hunter, we can just slot Shadowy Disguise. Concealed Weapon. Now they did change this ability, so now when you leave Sneak while in combat, you increase your damage done with this ability by 10% for 15 seconds instead of giving you Major Berserk. So only this ability will do more damage when you leave Stealth, so it is a nerf to the overall Nightblade damage. That's why I said once again you could run Sea Serpent Coil here for the Major Berserk, since you no longer get it from Concealed, so that is an option for you. But I prefer to run Concealed over Surprise Attack. I just think it's overall better, not only for the extra 10% damage, but because you get Minor Expedition, increasing your movement speed by 15%, which is nice for extra mobility and survivability. Merciless Resolve, this is just the overall better morph. Don't run the other one, this one does more damage. And it gives you a nice heal, so just run this one, it's just better than the other morph. And I chose to run Soul Harvest here because since I am running Mass Hysteria, I don't need the stun from Incap. But if you don't want to run Mass Hysteria here, and you want to run something like Phantasmal Escape or even Shade here, the extra mobility, then you would have to drop Hysteria. And then if you drop Hysteria, you have to run Incap, so you have another second reliable stun besides just leaving Stealth. So that is your option. If you want to drop Hysteria, you can put Shadow Image here or Phantasmal Escape and slot that here instead. But then you also, I would recommend switching your ult from Soul Harvest to Incap so you have another stun. But the reason why I chose Soul Harvest is because you get Major Defile now, reducing the healing received by 12%. And that synergizes nicely with Disease here, since this gives you Minor Defile, reducing the healing by, I think, 6%. So you have a total of 16% healing reduction on Nightblade, which is massive since not only will it be taking an additional 20% damage from you, but you'll be reducing the healing by an additional 18%. So this just gives you an insane amount of kill pressure when you use this ultimate, and you basically kind of want to be spamming this almost off cooldown, just to keep up the consistent pressure and make your enemy burn through all their resources. Then Healthy Offering, I prefer this one for the minor mending, but the one that reduces the cost is also just as good. Totally personal preference for this one, choose whichever morph you want. Elemental here, this is great for Major Breach, it's free and it applies Burning Shield and concusses status effects onto your opponents. This is massive. The primary reason why you don't want to run Marked over Elementals are so good right now, you definitely want to run this as your Major Breach ability because it gives you 3 free status effects, and that basically is just free damage, and the ability is free, so it helps on your sustain overall. Resolving Vigor, amazing heal over time, gives you minor resolve, nothing else to be said here. Refreshing Path, I like this because it gives you a nice heal and it gives you Major Expedition, and it gives you minor endurance, which increases like mag and stamina recovery by 15% while you're standing on top of it. But if you would rather run Rat here for the extra 10% crit damage, that is another option you can definitely run. You will be missing out on that nice heal. So once again, that comes with personal preference. And if you choose to run Refreshing Path, you have to run Escapist Poisons on the back bar. And if you're not a fan of that, just run Rat instead. You will lose out on that heal, but it shouldn't be too bad. You just have to play a little bit more safe since you won't have the Refreshing Path heal. And then next we have Siphoning Attacks here. While slaughtered on either bar, your soul yearns for the warmth of life. All damage you deal heals you for 1500 health and restores 200 Magicka and stamina once every second. This no longer procs off light attacks. This procs off all your damage sources, so this will give you overall more sustain through rather than light attacking. But you do lose the chunky Magicka and stam this would give you normally. after you use it. Now it costs is 4,300 health, and when you use it, you gain an immediate 2,600 mag and stamina. This is nice in its own way because you can now use it more in a pinch, so you can sit on your back bar, block, pop Vigor, Refreshing Path, and Healthy Offering, and pop a couple siphoning attacks here and get your sustain back up. So it definitely gives some more options than the other morph. So I like this morph. I like this new siphoning attacks more than the old one. I think it's more unique and you can use it more creatively than the old one, where you just kind of want to use it once, wait 20 seconds and use it again. Where this one is sustain on your back bar really badly, you just pop this a couple times, heal through Vigor, blocking, Refreshing Path, and Healthy Offering, and you should be good to go. And then our last ultimate here will be Temporal Guard. While starting gain major protection, reducing your damage taken by 5%. The only reason why you really run this is for the minor protection, so you just take less damage on your back bar. But if you want, you can run Soul Tether for an AoE ultimate as well. This is a very good ult as well, so if you want to run that, that's completely fine as well. For our potions, we are going to be also running tripods. I should mention that. And I just want a quick side note, they did release Torque of the Last Illid King this patch. I think this is actually very good, and you should definitely look into it if you want to make some builds. This is I think a very strong one piece. More into that into another video, but I think this is a very cool mythic, and I definitely recommend checking it out. I think it will be pretty strong. It might not be the meta or the best, but I think it will be pretty good. It seems very good in my opinion, so just keep that in mind. All right, onto our CP. Our CP of choice, Ironclad for reduced damage, Mastered Arms, Deadly Aim for most overall damage, and then Fighting Finesse increases your critical damage and critical healing by 8%. Another thing you can run is Backstabber right here if you want. Increases your critical damage by 10% while flanking instead of Ironclad if you want the most overall damage. But I find I have enough damage through Master Arms, Deadly Aim, and Fighting Finesse that I don't need Backstabber over Ironclad. I prefer the extra survivability. Onto our red tree here, running Pain Refuge, Sustained by Suffering, Relentlessness, and Fortified for more overall survivability. I chose to drop Survival Instinct. I found I didn't really need it, so I decided to drop it for more survivability. But you can definitely slot Survival Instinct over Relentlessness or Fortified. Either one is fine. And then for the green tree, I recommend Gifted Rider, War Mount, Rationer, and Liquid Efficiency. And now the way we want to play this build is pretty simple. Remember, you do get that increased critical damage and healing when you are sneaking or invisible by 16%. So if you're leaving stealth, I recommend just popping a Merciless so it gets that increased 16% damage, so it can hit extremely hard, especially if you previously hit them with Soul Harvest and they have that debuff on them. It can hit very hard, but basically you just want to make sure you have all your debuffs, Elemental on them, make sure Vigor's up so you have the minor resolve. Refreshing Path always should be up. It's a free heal, very strong, and it gives you a nice sustain. And make sure you have Power Extraction up for your brutality buff. You just want to weave in light attacks with Concealed, poke them down, get them to maybe about 70% HP. When they're at 70% HP and you have Merciless up, I recommend going for the Soul Harvest, Mass Hysteria, Merciless. This is just so if you open with a Soul Harvest and then try to immediately use after, most people will go for blocking, and since they'll be blocking, that you can't block Hysteria, so while they're blocking, you hit them with the immediate Merciless and you can one-shot them or get them extremely low, and then they'll be first to burn through all the resources playing defensive like rolling and healing, and you'll just out sustain them and kill them over time. Generally a good concealed Soul Harvest Merciless will just finish people off, and it just does an insane amount of damage. There's a keynote is just make sure you remember that you have 16% increased damage and healing while you are in stealth. So if you are leaving stealth, I always recommend leaving with either a Merciless or a Soul Harvest from stealth, and it'll do a bunch of damage. I wasn't even buffed up and it did 34,000. That little lizard boy. If you have any questions regarding the build, I'll be happy to answer anything down in the comments below. And with that, I hope you guys did enjoy.